All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's up? This is BC. I got a Central Florida rock star here that I'm going to introduce here in a second. So happy to have Tyler on here, man. He's been doing really, really well, and I know it's going to help you. I'm sure the title shocked you. Yes, it's true. This man is crushing it in real estate without having a social media. I'll say it again. He is not dancing on TikTok. He's not doing trendy content. This dude is out there doing the nitty gritty work and getting paid big bucks. So Tyler, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Bryan. Thanks for having me on.
Killing it, man. So yeah, let's get a short intro, to the people who don't know you, tell them about you and, give us like a 2 or 3 minute version of you getting into real estate and a little bit about yourself.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So I got into the business in 2020 during COVID, was furloughed from my full-time job and started like fresh, no idea of really, what real estate was or what it was about. Just needed a job and needed to start working. So I jumped in and found you on YouTube, started doing coaching and started doing cold calling. That's been my thing for the last 4 years.
Did you ever battle with anything in the beginning, like other people, where you considered doing other stuff? Or was it just, hey, I'm a realtor, I need a cold call and prospect, and that's it?
No, I honestly, when I first started, I just thought, business would come to me and, being a part of a brokerage, like the leads would, just fall in my lap. And I quickly learned that that's not the case. So I started YouTubing how to get real estate leads. I found a lot of your old videos and saw you door knocking, saw you cold calling. So I started with for sale by owners. And, just watched a lot of your content and got into a dialer like Mojo and just started hitting expireds and studying the scripts and just doing that consistently. And I pretty much got into the business like that and just haven't looked back.
How long did it take you to get your first deal?
Oh, man, geez. I think about 6 months.
Really? Now, this is a important follow-up question because number one, in those first 6 months, was there any moments where you almost quit or no?
Well, quitting wasn't really an option. 2020 during COVID, we were at the house. We didn't really have anything to quit. So, but, for those first 6 months, I wasn't cold calling. I was just kind of researching, figuring out what to do. I'll say once I started calling for sale by owners, I got a listing in about 45 days.
It's interesting. Now, was those 6 months of research because you were just kind of like scared and kicking the can down the road? Or was it something else? Because that's typically what I hear. They're like, oh, Bryan, I'm going to cold call, but I'm getting ready to one day in the future cold call. And they just basically fill up their day with busy work instead of actually doing the work. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So when I say 6 months, I'm saying 6 months after getting my license. Day one, welcome to the brokerage. I got my business cards. I'm ready to get started. Now what? And then crickets, nothing happened. And so that's when I started, going down the YouTube rabbit hole, found you, found your content, then started to take action on that. And I would say that was about 3 months in after being licensed. And then once I got set up, rocking and rolling and cold calling, I landed my first appointment. And I was like, wow, this really does work.
Works.
And I mean, there's a lot of noise, right? There's so many different things that get thrown at new agents. I remember someone told me, don't cold call for sale by owners. That doesn't work. Right? Send mailers to everybody in your neighborhood. And, it's a very expensive strategy, which also does work. And I was like, man, I don't know what really to get started with, but I just started calling for sale by owners, setting appointments. And then as I dug deeper, I found out about expireds. I didn't even know that was a thing when I started. And so that's kind of how I got into the game.
That's interesting, man, because I would say, especially for a newer agent, the FSBO is probably the highest skill threshold one, where it's like you're going to hit your head against the wall and be frustrated if you're not good with FSBOs, because typically they're going to require a lot more skill to really break through. Was there a particular reason that you picked the FSBO to go after first? Because it's very rare that you hear a new agent say, hey, I'm going to cold call and I'm only going to focus on FSBOs.
So honestly, it was about money. So like, the dialers was like, oh, a dialer's like $100 a month. And I don't know, for sale by owners were free. They're just sitting there on Zillow. So, I just kind of picked up the phone and called them with no script, no training, no nothing. And quickly found out that it was a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. For anyone that's ever called a for sale by owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so so then I started Googling, okay, how to call for sale by owners. I found a lot of your content, which was so helpful, so great. And yeah, I just started doing that and going through the motions and calling, and I just kept trying and being consistent and set my first appointment. And then, the rest was history. My first for sale by owner listing I got sold in 17 days, got my first commission check, and then immediately signed up for coaching.
I love it. Now, typically people, a couple things there, right? The point about not having the money is dead on. Like when I started back in 2013, I remember I talked to the title reps because they could still do this at the time. I asked them for numbers and they would bring me a manila folder, like one of those yellow folders. And it was just stacks of papers with certain cities and zip codes of numbers. And I sat in the bullpen in our office and I literally had to pick up the phone and dial and do it. The lady next to me never showed up. So I pulled her phone over to mine and I was like literally double dialing. And I did that until I closed my first deal. To then get the dialer and all that. So it's funny that you brought that up because that necessity breeds that resourcefulness where it's like, hey, I got to figure it out. You know what I mean? And that to me is one of the most important things to activate as a new agent because it'll get your ass in gear. You have no time to waste or, oh, well, feeling sorry for yourself. It's, hey, I got to figure it out. So for you, it's FSBOs. Let's get it done. Get that check. Now, the interesting part is you invested after that check. A lot of people don't do that. They start blowing the money and being dumb, AKA like me, right? Even though I did invest, I was still kind of stupid with my checks because I got 2 or 3 checks right away. Was that instilled to you because you were an adult already and not an 18-year-old getting in the business? Or were you kind of already methodically planning this the whole time?
It really was just kind of like a feeling I had in the spur of the moment. I'm like, first of all, I had no idea what I'm doing. And I found this guy's content, went with it, got results from doing the work. And I was like, you know what? There's something here. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Immediately got into coaching because I was like, if I can do this once off all the free content that's out there,
yeah,
then I gotta find out what this is about because there's something here. And then, after that, I mean, we started taking listings left and right. And, I think I've done over 200 every year since then. So, I mean, I know that's kind of an odd story, but once I got my first taste of, calling someone, going on an appointment, getting a listing, getting a commission check, I knew that I was onto something.
Yeah. And that's cool, man. And again, I think it's just a testament of the consistency in everything that you're doing. But so for a couple of years, right, you're doing well, you're off to the races, right? You're doing 200. At what point, because we'll shift it and then I'm going to come back to some of the social media stuff. At what point did you say, okay, I'm doing well, but now I need to kind of take it to that next notch, that next level? Because I think that's where we really started working together.
Yeah. So, I mean, waking up every morning, hitting the gym, having a consistent schedule definitely was a big part of that success. And at first I was just blown away. I'm like, wow, you make over $100,000 a year, upwards of $200,000 just from picking up the phone, having minimal skills. And then I was like, you know what? Now it's time to take it to the next level. So I got with you mostly because I found out that skills is what's paying the bills. So I saw your content. I was like, there's a lot of coaches out there, right? And there was something different about the way you were communicating and the stuff that you were talking about. And, doing it day in, day out, it was very obvious to me that you knew exactly what you were doing from practicing what you preach. Yeah. So I reached out to you and, signed up with your program and it's been great ever since, man. So, communication, like we can sit there and make calls all day, but if you don't know how to say, what to say, and then actually deliver on that at a listing appointment, I think that's really where I'm at right now and taking it to the next level.
Yeah, the interesting part, because I'm sure there was other reasons too, and we'll kind of unpack it as we go, but you actually appreciated it. And the one thing I want to bring up is I added the Toastmasters that we do Sunday. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you really like that, and it's been really beneficial for you.
Yeah, so Toastmasters, which is another thing that is so awesome. When I first heard about it, I was like, I don't even know what is this Toastmasters, like this guy's cooking toast or something. But it's a public speaking course. And for me, public speaking, like many people, one of our biggest fears, right? But then as I got into it and started doing it, I really realized, like, this is a lot to do with sales, and not so much just in sales, but in real life relationships, how we communicate with people, and how we present at listing presentations. So, a lot of the feedback, I just had my first $1 million plus listing. And when I went to that appointment, I was able to implement a lot of the communication tactics that you were teaching me. And that was one of the biggest feedback I got after we closed that deal was, just the way you spoke, the way you made us feel was why we chose you. And, they interviewed a lot of agents who had more production than me, less production than me, but there was something different about the interview that we had. And they're like, we just felt like we could trust you. We felt like you were real. And, immediately I was like, wow, that's kind of what Bryan was talking about last week during his Toastmasters course. And so, hats off to you. I credit a lot of that success to that Toastmasters meeting, that not so much tactical skill, but just humanizing scripts, humanizing interactions, and communicating with people in real life.
Yeah. I love that, man. Because I remember going back and forth, and you even being on the call. It's like, oh yeah, I got $1 million appointment. And didn't you say, like, you didn't even realize it until later, like when you looked up the information, that you didn't know it was $1 million one?
Yes, that is correct. So it was an open house that I was doing for a friend of mine, and she had moved out of state. She's like, hey, she was a realtor. She's like, please help me out with this open house. I can't sell my house. So I showed up to the open house, and these folks walked in, and I just started talking to them, and I wasn't very salesy. I wasn't very pressury, following them around, the house like a puppy, like you always talk about. And I just started talking to them and making that connection. And they were like, you know what? We actually really love this house. We want to buy a house in this area. However, we need an agent who can come to our house and tell us what it's worth. And I'm like, okay, great. So yeah, write your name down, write your address, and I'll get back to you guys on Monday. Called me on Monday. He was like, hey, me and my wife, we really liked you. We'd love for you to come by. And I was on my way to an inspection that day, and I was like, you know what? I can't make it today, but tomorrow it will be, I'll stop by, and, we can talk about getting your house on the market and getting it sold. He's like, anyway, you can come by in the morning. I said, tomorrow morning, I'm slam busy. I'll be there in the afternoon. We're like, well, we'll move some things around. We really want to speak with you. Like I said, we had a really good interaction with you. And so I go back to the office on Monday afternoon, look up the property, and I'm like, wow, this is in one of the best cities in Orlando. And it's like a $1 million plus listing. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't believe I haven't gotten back to these guys sooner. But, it just goes to show, like, the level of respect. They instantly knew that I was their agent just from the way that I was able to talk to them versus all the other agents they had ran into.
And you're right, man. And I tell them, like, I remember it was probably like the second or third speech I ever did in front of a lot of agents. I said, it's what you guys are communicating to people without opening your mouths that's causing you to lose deals. And then I could tell the crowd was like, what the hell are you saying? I'm like, it's everything that your body is screaming before you ever open your mouth. Your eye contact, how you carry yourself, if you're tense or not, all of that already, like, they size you up without you even knowing it. And then I did a whole speech on it, right? But that right there, what you just described, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not going to watch a video and then be like, oh, I can do this. Like, that's through skill development, dedication, experience, time on the job, to then be that complete package that in the way that you interact with them at the open house, how you walk in, how you shake their hand, how you talk to them. That's the complete package that we're talking about there. But that in itself leads to what you said. And I want people to write that down, comment it. We felt like we could trust you. We felt like you were real. That will make you more money in this business than anything else. Because that's one of the top feedbacks I get, what he just said, through my social media over the last 12 or 13 years. Felt like I can trust you and you feel real, not AI, not some robot, not some guy just giving you some pitch. Hey, right. And that's so key. And 100%. I think that's the biggest transformation I've seen in you, because you were already pretty solid coming in. You're making money, right? Like, we don't have to question that, but now you're taking it to another level. And it's cool because I want to ask you now, in your everyday, day to day, like, do you feel like smoother, more comfortable, more relaxed? Like, what is that process done for you, just like overall in your life and your interactions with like your family and how you carry yourself? Have you seen like a difference?
Definitely, man. So like, for me, I always had the roadmap, the tools as the scripts. I knew the words to say. However, it never even occurred to me until I started working with you that how you say things, how you listen, mirroring, matching tonality, like, makes just on a whole nother level, and that was really what, I was looking for when I signed up, was like, look, I know how to put the reps in, but I want to work now smarter, not just harder, so like being able to set appointments and go on listings, only calling 2 hours a day versus 6 hours a day. Right. So, and I remember too, one of the first things you had said to me when we met was like, how are you doing this many transactions and you don't have a TC? And I was like, I don't know, I never look at that. And that was one of the things I really appreciated about when I met you, was you took time to listen to my whole business and instantly were able to pick out opportunities, and was like, all right, first thing you do before anything, go interview a TC. You laid out the questions I needed to ask the TC, set up like 5 interviews, and immediately clicked with one of the TCs. I'm like, wow, this is exactly what I need. And that was another game changer, that you helped me out with that. And without my TC now, like, I don't even know how I survived without her. So
I was impressed, bro. I was like, dude, you got a family, you got kids, and you don't have a TC. Like, you must be built different, bro. I was like, how are you doing it? Right. Just crazy. But then you told me you were, just slamming the energy drinks. I'm like, you cheater.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the thing. I was like, well, I'm working my tail off over here. And so, and that was one of the things I texted my TC like 3 weeks into it. Like, I appreciate you so much. Like, having my weekends, having my evenings with my family and my daughters, like, for a couple $100, and also my clients having just such a better interaction. Like, it was great. So
100%, bro. And again, all credit to you, man, because you're implementing, right? Now, you brought up something that I want to use as maybe like a teaching point, and you can give some tips to the audience. You recognize that you wanted to take your skill set to the next level, and you said, okay, I'm gonna double down on that. You don't see that in the industry. That's the last thing people are thinking about right now. Yeah. What's your advice to people out there who maybe are newer, maybe getting into the business, or aren't really putting deals together, about the importance of skill set, and maybe why you believe, or you would recommend, that they should really focus on it?
I think the biggest obstacle for agents, new and seasoned, or even been in the business for 10 plus years, is like, we get fed so much information that sometimes it's overwhelming. We don't know what to do. And, from what I've seen, is pretty much everything works, right? Like, so there's agents out there who are just doing open houses, agents like myself who are only calling expireds for sell by owners. There's agents out there crushing it, just doing social media. But I think, what the trend is like, you see people doing it consistently and just blocking out the noise and focusing on one thing. They're getting coaching, they're having a mentor. And I think that's, to answer your question, is just really like pick one thing, focus in on it, and execute. You know, like we can't just be all over the place. Go deep, not so wide.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. You know, the reason I always tell people to double down on skills, and who comes to mind for me is a personal friend and a student, right? He's a lifetime member of my coaching. Ray is. He's in California. I've known him for a long time. He's a testament to me because most of his stuff now comes from social media, most of his business, right? But he tells me how that success is predicated on the skill set that he developed with us. So he's like, yeah, I produce content and all that and bring people in, but I have the systems and I have the sales skills to close these people, to set up appointments, to have good calls to action, to get them to pick up the phone, to get them to convert, to qualify them. So I look at skills as like not only the glue that holds everything together, but the foundation that everything is built on. Because I'll even flip this question to you now, Tyler. I know because we titled this like you've done all this without social media, but I know you're about to start and you're going to build your brand. Would you say that the skill set that you've developed in communication is going to make it easier for you to do social media and get behind the camera because now you feel like a much better polished speaker and communicator?
Absolutely. I mean, so like, I guess to go back to your first question, the skills, right? So the skills is like the foundation, like whether you're talking to someone who's an expired, even talking to someone in your sphere, a social media lead, YouTube lead, if you can't pick up the phone, have a conversation with them and go meet with them, talk to them, like it really doesn't matter where the lead source is coming from. So the skill set has to be the number one focus. And like, that's first. So we got to get that done first. That's what I need to work on first. And then at the end of the day is like, you can pick whatever you want to do. Right. So yeah, absolutely. The skill set, the skills are where it's at.
So you've been doing well, you've implemented, you got the TC, got some time back, you're growing. What do you think are some of the things that you're really focused on this next year to kind of take that production to the next level? Because I know we've talked about getting a buyer's agent and building your team. Is that all you're going to do, or is there any other focuses besides maybe that and starting on social media?
So yeah, right now, I mean, a lot of agents, I think they struggle to start cold calling consistently, right? And I've been able to do that. But there's been a lot of leads that have fallen through the crack and a lot of follow-ups where it was like, well, first thing I'm focusing on my sphere and on my past clients. So really getting the systems down and the skills to follow up. Because I'm getting a lot of leads from people I've done business with 2-3 years ago. And then also social media having a presence. Like, I see a lot of people, if they have the skills to do social media right, like, Reyes is killing it out there, but he has that skill, right? Like there's a lot of agents who are doing social media who aren't doing much, unfortunately.
Yep.
So, right now is getting those systems in place, having that CRM and actually using it. And I'm still going to be calling expireds, FSBOs, and implementing some social media. So, of course, I'm going to be leveraging the TC and a buyer's agent, like you said, and just to kind of take up some of that time that goes into showing properties. But really, like, going back to what we're talking about, like, the number one thing I'm always going to be focused on is skills. Like if I follow up with everybody perfectly and post on social media all day long, but don't have any skills, it's not going to really yield much at the end of the day.
Yep. So it sounds like you're adding, but you're basically sticking to your guns and fundamentals and just really making sure that you get better at doing what you're already doing and maximizing that first before adding any real other bells and whistles.
Yeah. I mean, that's the plan, and consistency. So like the skills, they just don't really happen overnight. Like, getting into the community, getting into the role play groups, showing up to the coaching calls, and just showing up every day. And the skills develop over time and, really being a student of the game.
Hell yeah. I love it. You have any big wild predictions for next year? Like, are you going for 500, 600 grand, or what's kind of the goal? Because I know you're going to push it next year for sure.
Yeah, so this year already closed just over 9 million, which was better than last year. And right now I'm sitting at 198 closed, and I got 35 under contract and a couple more listing appointments already I'm taking. I still got a few more months left in this year. So this year I'm probably going to finish out 245, 250. And next year, I'm going to take it to 500. So super focused. I have the guidance. I got the support with you guys. And I'm going to be at 500K.
I love it. Are we going to see you doing any viral TikTok dances on social media or no?
Probably not too many TikTok. I won't say no. But when I hit 500K, I'll be doing a viral TikTok dance. Okay.
There we go. I'll be there with you, man. I'll be there with you, dude, at the finish line. That's funny. Cool. All right, man. I'm obviously going to interview you more because then we can probably, nitpick certain things and get down to the nitty gritty. But it's that simple, right? You show up, you follow a schedule, you make your calls, and you get the result. I've interviewed, I don't know how many, probably hundreds of agents at this point for my platform, and everyone kind of says the same thing, but maybe after interview number 5,000, it'll finally get through to people. I don't know. What do you think?
Man, I get approached by agents all the time, especially at the office, and they're like, oh, how are you doing this? And, I tell them, like, look, it's not a real big secret here. I'm waking up, I'm sitting here, I'm making calls, and I'm working on my skills while I'm doing that. And I'm putting in the work. And I would say maybe 1 out of 20 that are like, oh, I would love to see how you do that. And I'm like, all right, meet me here tomorrow at 7:30. 1 out of 20 are showing up, like so many few people are like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. Maybe I'll just dance on TikTok. But so at this point, I think everyone really knows what it takes. It's just a matter of, are they going to do it?
Right. And that's why I think who you work with and your environment and who's helping you really influences that tremendously. Because even if somebody's a little hesitant, if you're in the right environment and you have the right people supporting you, they'll get you over that hump and get you to do it. Right. So I love that, man. Appreciate you coming on, Tyler. If somebody wants to reach out, chat with you, what would be the best way for them to contact you? Facebook, Instagram, what method?
Yeah, so I just created a Facebook account like 2 weeks ago. So definitely send me a friend request, instant message me on Facebook, and I'll definitely connect with you and get you all set up.
Cool, man. Yeah, thanks for showing up. Any final words of wisdom for the audience?
Go make those calls.
Hell yeah, I love it. All right, man. Thanks for jumping on.
Later. Thank you.